Hello to you all. My name is Jackie Buey and I work as a Baptist minister on a team with particular oversight of pastoral care. And one of the things in this time when we're in lockdown that I've been thinking about is how to help people become more resilient in a period that none of us have ever experienced before. And for many people it's exceedingly tough. So being resilient through this time will be a good thing to learn. Now, before I became a minister, I used to work in psychological health, helping people both in the Christian sector and humanitarian workers. And some of the things I learned through working in those sectors was about what enabled some people to be more resilient than others. And there are 4 key areas that I learned seem to have a huge difference for those that were resilient compared with those that seemed less resilient. So in a few minutes, I just want to unpack what those 4 key areas are. So what I found is that people who had a key understanding, a primary understanding of why they were doing what they were doing, enabled them to keep at it longer. If they saw it was a positive thing to do. Humanitarian workers might be going into really troubled situations, but they were doing it because they had a focus and they could put their own needs aside for the benefit of others. In our situation, in this lockdown time or isolation time, why are we doing this? In part, we are looking after ourselves because if we are isolated or kept away from others, it means the likelihood of us catching this virus is less. But Jesus talks about in the Gospels that we are to love others as much as we love ourselves. And one of the things that the government has said to us is that actually by being isolated we're actually caring for other people. The reality is that if less people get this virus, particularly in a number of weeks' time when the peak is likely to be high, the NHS won't be able to manage if there are too many people needing the ventilators. So by the reality that I can stay away and I'm helping there to be more ventilators available, may be a helpful thing for me to keep in mind and for you to keep in mind about why you're prepared to put yourself and your family through this time of really tough isolation and lockdown. It isn't easy, but with those thoughts in mind, it can help. So that would be a key area for what makes people resilient, having a reason for doing what you're doing. The second area that I learned from the work I used to do is that people who had good connections were the people who managed to keep going longer. We've seen, haven't we, across the news, just how big a need it is for people, for many people at least, to stay connected. The singing from the balconies in Italy, the way that so many people in the United Kingdom turned out to clap the NHS, and roads of people and clapping across London could be heard. There's that sense of being connected. But we need also more than that. I believe we need to have real deeper connections with people where we can be truly ourselves, where we can actually say to some people, individuals or more, I'm struggling, and know that those people are going to listen and not just try to solve a problem, but actually hear where we're coming from and show their love for us by giving us time. So as much as we are encouraged to care for other people, to do shopping, to listen to others in our streets or localities, we also do need those deeper sense of connections. So I'd encourage you, if you are feeling very alone, try to reach out and gain some mutual connections where you listen to others and maybe they listen to you too. So those are the first 2, having a clear focus, staying connected. The third area is that we need to be people who care for our bodies, our whole bodies, physically, our minds, our emotions and our spirits. We are people as a whole that need each parts of those to be fed appropriately. We're being encouraged with our bodies to take exercise. That's often a lifesaver for many, to get out of the house if we're able to, if we're not in complete isolation, to utilise that to help our bodies stay as fit as they can. Or do PE in the home. We're seeing lots of people doing that. Keeping physically fit actually helps your body release stress. The toxins that build up in your muscles when people are stressed, they're released if you're exercising. So it's really good to do some exercise. But also, what are we putting into our bodies? We are people who should be aware that what we eat and drink as regular things impact the way we're going to feel. That's not to say you can't have your crisps and your chocolate at times. I do. But we do overarching need to be people who are aware of what's the health input of what we're putting into ourselves. So being careful about those things. What are we taking in other ways into our bodies, our minds though? What are we watching on television? What are we listening to? Is the news constantly on in the background? It will feed you possibly into a negative place. So you know yourselves, or hopefully you're getting to know yourselves. If you're constantly hearing negative things, it makes people feel low. And managing our emotions is important as well, because what we feed into our beings, into what we're listening to, it will have an impact. In the book of 2 Corinthians, in the chapter 10, it talks about we should be people who capture our thoughts. And I think that's important, that we are able to realize we can stop some of the negative thoughts that can come, but for some of that we need to actually stop listening to too much negative. Because anxiety and depression, we're hearing that, aren't we? It's growing, no surprise, for people who already had more of an anxious or a depressive part with their being. They're finding this so much harder, but for other people too. Their mental health is being impacted, and so being aware of our emotions is important to know what we need to do. There is help. Go to the GP if you're feeling these things. Get the help you need, or talk about it with people. There's no shame in admitting that we might be going through some really hard times. But what about your spirit? How are you feeding your spirit at this time? If you're a follower of God, are you able to carve out some time, maybe at the beginning of the day, to stop, to pray, maybe to read some scripture? Do you look online for some positive testimonies of how other people with faith? There's so much out there if you're able to feed some positive into your spirit. Whether or not you're able to gather for prayer, as we're trying to do in our church at noon online, to actually enjoy times of corporate prayer. There's different ways to do it, but I would say take that seriously too. And the fourth area is, I believe that it's really helpful, and I saw this from people who worked overseas, the need to have distinctions between the times you're working and the times you're not working. You need a good blend of those. Different pressures on us put stress on our bodies, and we need to be able to turn away, to turn off the computer, to stop working, and to do something that replenishes you. Do a hobby, read a book that you may not have done before, whatever it is for you. Sing, join a choir online. There's so much stuff that there is out there currently being offered as free involvement in something, whatever works for you. But I would just encourage you to know you need to replenish yourself, because we're on a bit of a journey, a marathon, bit of a run here, aren't we? In the Bible, there's a book called Hebrews, and in chapter 12, it talks about the image of us being running a race as a crowd of witnesses, and we're told to throw off everything that hinders us in that race. So these sorts of aspects of what helps to build resilience may be fitting into that piece of scripture, that we are throwing off the things that are hindering us so that we can stay strong and focused, to keep a clear aim for why we're running this race. Keep the clear focus. Know that we're running with other people. Keep your connections. Keep your body healthy, your mind, your emotions, spirit healthy, so you can keep running and have the right blend here of work and non-work. It's important that you actually take some rest to notice how much you're sleeping, those sorts of things. So I hope those 4 things help you. Maybe you knew all this before. Maybe this is a helpful reminder. I just thought it may be helpful for some to think about how to get themselves a bit more resilient, so we keep on knowing that we are walking this journey, running this journey with God, who is here with us, who is going to want us to complete this race well, and to know that he's running, if you like, with us, to keep hopeful. I hope that helps you. Bye for now.